The arrival of humanity's monumental ship. In the heart of the Orion arm of the Milky Way galaxy, where civilizations from countless star systems mingled in harmony, a delicate balance of power had long been established. Trade routes snaked through this region like lifeblood between worlds, and treaties, as ancient as the stars themselves, ensured peace. For eons, this corner of space had thrived under the watchful eyes of the Galactic Council, where representatives of various species gathered to resolve disputes and foster cooperation. But on this fateful day, that delicate balance would be disrupted by an arrival that no one could have foreseen. A sudden distortion rippled through space-time, and at the edge of the Orion sector, a vessel appeared, seemingly out of nowhere. Its size alone was enough to send tremors of fear and awe through the region. The ship, a colossal behemoth, stretched over 10 kilometers in length. Its exterior, smooth and gleaming with a metallic sheen, shimmered as though it was made of a material foreign to the galaxy. This strange ship's presence defied the natural laws known to galactic scientists, as though it had slipped through the very fabric of space itself. The sudden appearance of the vessel sent shockwaves throughout local space traffic control systems, overloading their sensors and triggering alarms across multiple star systems. The ship's energy signature was unlike anything ever recorded, massive, and pulsating with a power so intense that even the most sophisticated alien warships seemed insignificant in comparison. As the news of the arrival spread, panic and curiosity mixed in equal measure. What was this ship? Who had sent it? Inside the Galactic Council's central station, Arxon N9, chaos unfolded. Representatives from a dozen different species, ranging from towering gaseous entities to crystalline beings, rushed to secure their positions. The council chamber, usually a place of order and diplomacy, had become a scene of turmoil. A flood of encrypted transmissions and urgent reports flooded in from across the sector. But one thing was clear: this was no ordinary visitor. Zila, the Arcturian leader of the Galactic Council, moved to the front of the chamber, his 8 tentacles waving in a frantic attempt to regain control. The weight of the situation pressed on him heavily, but he stood firm. He addressed the chamber, his voice echoing through the room. "Esteemed colleagues, we must proceed with caution. This ship has not shown any signs of aggression. We cannot assume its intentions without further evidence." But his words fell on deaf ears. Panic spread like wildfire. The villains, a race of silicon-based life forms, were the first to speak up, calling for an immediate military response. The Kerf, a paranoid species known for their wariness of the unknown, demanded a full sector-wide quarantine. Even the usually calm Luminaris, a race known for their intellectual pursuits, advocated for direct communication with the strange vessel. Each faction clamored for action, their voices rising in urgency. Yet, through it all, the ship remained still, an imposing and silent presence against the backdrop of stars. Hours passed, and still there was no communication from the ship. The galaxy waited in a breathless, anxious silence. What was this vessel? Where had it come from? And what did it want? Then, as if to answer the collective question, a burst of energy shot forth from the ship. The transmission bypassed every known encryption protocol and appeared simultaneously on every communication device across the sector. The message, brief but profound, shattered the silence. "Greetings, citizens of the galaxy. We are humanity, and we come in peace." The chamber fell into stunned silence. Representatives from dozens of species looked at one another in disbelief. Humanity. The name was unfamiliar to most, with only a few ancient historians recalling forgotten stories of a species from an unremarkable star system on the outskirts of known space. Who were these humans, and how had they developed such advanced technology without detection? Before anyone could respond, the transmission continued, its tone calm and unwavering. "We request an audience with the Galactic Council. Our ship, the UES Horizon, stands ready to receive your representatives. We assure you, we mean no harm." The audacity of this message sent shockwaves through the chamber. Never in the history of the Galactic Council had any species arrived with such a display of power and demanded recognition. Who were these humans to challenge the established order? As murmurs filled the room, Zila, the leader of the council, made a bold decision. "I will go," he declared, his voice steady despite the growing tension. "It is my duty to meet these humans. We must understand them." With that, preparations began immediately. A sleek diplomatic shuttle was launched from Arxon N9, escorted by a fleet of defensive ships. The Council's representatives, wary but determined, prepared for a journey that would take them directly to the UES horizon. Speculation ran wild across the galaxy. Who were these humans? What had brought them here? And most pressing of all, what were their true intentions? As the shuttle drew closer to the monstrous ship, its vast size became even more apparent. The docking process was seamless, as though the UES horizon itself had guided the shuttle into its cavernous hangar bay. The representatives, cloaked in environmental suits to protect them from potential biological hazards, stepped cautiously from the shuttle. They were greeted by a delegation of humans, their appearance as strange to the aliens as their own was to the humans. The leader of the human delegation, a tall figure, stepped forward and spoke. His tone was warm and welcoming, and his eyes gleamed with a kind of certainty that left the alien visitors both unsettled and intrigued. "Welcome to the UES horizon," he said simply. The story of humanity's first contact with the galaxy had begun. The tension of first contact. As the Galactic Council representatives stood on the massive hangar bay of the UES horizon, the enormity of the moment weighed heavily on them. Every step they took, every movement, seemed amplified within the vast, silent interior of the human vessel. The hangar was unlike any alien facility they had ever encountered. Sleek metallic surfaces stretched across the walls, and soft blue lights illuminated the chamber, casting an eerie glow on the alien delegates. It was both beautiful and intimidating, an advanced piece of technology that felt alive, yet utterly foreign. The human delegation, composed of individuals in simple but functional uniforms, waited patiently for the aliens to approach. Their leader, a tall figure with striking features that conveyed both strength and wisdom, stepped forward again. His eyes met the delegation's gaze with a calm but intense focus, and his voice rang out with confidence. "Greetings. I am Captain Ilara," the human said, his tone warm but firm. "I represent the crew of the UES Horizon. Welcome aboard." Zila, the Arcturian leader, was the first to speak, his tentacles shifting nervously. You are humans?" he asked, his voice a mixture of awe and suspicion. "From a system known as Earth." Captain Ilara nodded, her eyes scanning the alien delegates before responding. "Yes, we are humans, and Earth is the cradle of our species. We've traveled from the farthest reaches of our galaxy to reach you, though our journey is just beginning." The council representatives exchanged uncertain glances, trying to process the enormity of what was unfolding. Humanity, a species thought to be insignificant, had somehow appeared on the galactic stage with a level of technology far beyond any race present in the council. How had they achieved this? What could have driven them to make such a bold entrance? Captain Ilara noticed the unease in their posture, the tension in the air, and chose her next words carefully. "We come in peace, but we also come with a proposition. We seek allies. The galaxy is vast and full of threats. There are dangers on the horizon, ones that even the most advanced civilizations are not prepared for. We believe that together we can face these challenges." The room fell silent as Zila processed this. The mention of threats stirred an unease in him. He knew all too well that even in the most peaceful corners of the galaxy, war was never far behind. The councils of many races had long been filled with whispers of dangers looming in the dark reaches of space, unseen but very real. Zela's mind raced. Humanity's sudden arrival, its boldness, had shaken the foundation of the council. But could they be trusted? Were these humans truly as peaceful as they claimed, or was there something more? There had to be more. No species could develop such power without hidden motives. "We must deliberate," Zilla said after a long pause, his voice firm. "We must learn more about you, Captain Ilara, and your people. We need to understand the true nature of your presence here." Captain Ilara nodded, a slight smile on her face. "Of course. I would expect no less." She gestured toward a nearby corridor, where the delegates could follow her deeper into the ship. "Allow me to show you more of our ship. We have nothing to hide." As the delegation moved deeper into the UVS horizon, they marveled at the ship's interior. It was unlike anything they had ever seen. The human ship, though massive, was clean and efficient, with sleek walls and softly humming engines that seemed to pulse with life. It was a ship of war and peace, capable of incredible feats, yet it bore the mark of a species driven by a sense of purpose. The aliens couldn't help but be amazed by the technology before them. The ship was unlike anything in the galaxy, from the quantum systems to the interstellar engines that seemed to hum with a strange resonance. But even more captivating was the crew, who moved with precision, their faces calm and focused. The human crew was clearly disciplined, yet there was a sense of unity that stretched across the entire vessel, a unity that was hard to ignore. Zila, his mind still swirling with doubts, turned to Captain Ilara as they walked. "What do you want from us?" he asked, his voice quiet but direct. "Why approach us now with such power? What are your true intentions?" Captain Ilara's expression softened. "We don't want to conquer. We want to collaborate. The galaxy is full of many species, each with its own strengths and weaknesses. But the greater threats come not from within but from beyond. Our first contact with other races might not have been as peaceful as it is today, but that's why we come to you now." The delegation paused as they reached a central chamber within the ship, its walls lined with intricate holographic displays. The human captain gestured to the projections, where the screen flickered to life, showing images of distant galaxies and ancient star maps. A projection of dark matter regions and unexplored sectors pulsed in the center of the room, sending a chill down the spines of the alien representatives. "You see," Captain Ilara continued, her voice heavy with the gravity of her words, "there are forces at work beyond our understanding. Dangers that even the most advanced civilizations cannot confront alone. We face them, and we know they are growing in strength. Our fleet is capable, but we need allies, trustworthy, resourceful allies. And that's why we are here." The silence that followed her words was filled with but not all the delegates were as wary. The luminaries, known for their intellectual pursuits and often passive demeanor, were leaning toward the opposite view. Their translucent, glowing forms flickered with interest, and the speaker for their race, Lixara, a tall, serene figure, spoke with quiet conviction. "We have always believed in the power of cooperation. If these humans speak the truth, then we should offer them the benefit of the doubt. If they are as advanced as they claim, their knowledge could be invaluable. Together, we could solve problems we've been struggling with for millennia." Zila, standing in the center of the council chamber, listened to the voices of his fellow council members. He had always prided himself on his ability to listen, to understand both sides of every argument. But this was different. There was no clear answer, no obvious right choice. The humans were either a blessing or a curse, and the risk of making the wrong decision could doom the entire galaxy. "I understand your concerns," Zila said at last, his voice calm but resolute. "But we cannot allow fear to drive our decisions. We must assess the situation logically and without prejudice. I have spoken with Captain Ilara, and I believe their intentions are sincere. The dangers they speak of are real, though we may not fully understand them. If we refuse their offer, we risk isolating ourselves when the galaxy faces threats that none of us are prepared for." The room fell into a heavy silence, and the weight of his words hung in the air. Zilla's calmness was not enough to quell the rising unease. Was the council truly ready to take such a leap of faith? Were they prepared to place their trust in a species that had only just arrived and demanded cooperation on such a grand scale? Meanwhile, in the halls of the UES Horizon, Captain Ilara stood with her crew, awaiting the Council's decision. The long hours of waiting had not dulled her confidence, but she knew that this moment would shape the future of her people. The fate of not just humanity, but of countless civilizations, rested on the Council's response. Ilara turned to Commander Jarek, her second-in-command, as they stared out of the ship's observation window, watching the distant stars. "How do you think they'll respond?" she asked quietly. Jarek's gaze was fixed on the stars, his expression unreadable. "I think we've given them enough to consider. The rest is up to them. But, Captain, we've seen what's out there. We've fought the shadows of the galaxy. If the Council rejects us, it's their choice. But they'll regret it." Captain Ilara sighed. She had hoped for cooperation, for unity among the galaxy's peoples. Yet she had known from the beginning that this would not be an easy path. Some races were too set in their ways, too suspicious of anything they didn't fully understand. Humanity's sudden appearance was enough to shake the foundations of the status quo. "The galaxy is changing, Jarek," she said, her voice filled with resolve. "And whether they join us or not, humanity will not stand idly by. We will protect what we've built. We will face the unknown. And we will fight, together if they're willing." Back in the Council chamber, the debate raged on, and time was running out. Zila knew he had to make a decision soon, one that would either lead to a new era of cooperation or tear the galaxy further apart. "We will vote," Zila declared, his voice cutting through the murmurs of the room. "But I ask each of you to consider the future, not just the present. If we refuse this opportunity, we risk leaving the galaxy vulnerable to whatever is coming." And so, the Council prepared to cast their votes. The decision, once made, would be irreversible. Would they ally with humanity, or would they turn away, fearful of what they did not understand? The future of the galaxy hung in the balance. A new dawn of trust. The decision was made. After hours of heated debate and deliberation, the Galactic Council came to a unanimous conclusion. The risks of rejecting humanity's offer were too great, and the potential benefits of an alliance were too valuable to ignore. Though uncertainty still lingered in the hearts of many, the vote had been cast. Humanity would be accepted into the fold, at least for now. Zila stood before the Council chamber, his tentacles raised in a gesture of finality. "It is decided," he said, his voice steady but filled with the weight of responsibility. "We will meet with the humans. We will offer them the opportunity to prove their intentions and their value to this galaxy. But be warned, this alliance is not without conditions. We will proceed with caution, and we will ensure that our trust is not betrayed." The Luminaris delegate, Lixara, nodded in approval, her glowing form flickering with enthusiasm. "This is the first step toward a new era, an era of cooperation, of unity. We will learn from humanity, as we have learned from each other. Together, we will rise to face the challenges ahead." Thyldar, the villain's diplomat, hesitated but eventually spoke, his deep voice betraying a sense of reluctant acceptance. "Very well, but let it be known that the villains will be watching. Trust is earned, not given freely." Sark of the Kerf clicked his tongue, his reptilian eyes narrowing. "The humans will have to prove themselves. We will not be so easily swayed by their smooth words and impressive ships." With that, the Council's decision was final. The humans would be given the opportunity to join the galaxy's community, but their path forward would be far from smooth. The next steps were critical. Humanity had to prove that their peaceful intentions were not a front for something darker, something more dangerous. On the UES horizon, Captain Ilara felt a wave of relief wash over her as the message came through from the Council. The vote had been in their favor. The Council would meet with humanity in earnest, and they had a chance to prove themselves to the galaxy. "We did it," Commander Jarek said, his voice filled with quiet admiration. "They accepted us. They're willing to give us a chance." Captain Ilara nodded, though her mind was still filled with doubt. "This is only the beginning. Now we must show them that we are worthy of that trust. The Council will be watching our every move, waiting for us to slip up." Jarek looked at her, his expression grim. "And if we do slip up? If we fail to meet their expectations?" Ilara's gaze hardened, her resolve clear. "Then we will stand alone. But we won't fail. We can't. Not when the stakes are this high." As the two of them stood in the observation room, looking out at the stars, the reality of their situation began to settle in. Humanity had crossed a threshold that would lead them into an uncharted future. There were still many unknowns, still many dangers lurking in the dark corners of space. But they were no longer alone. They had allies now, and with that came a chance to change the galaxy. Meanwhile, on the bustling capital world of the Galactic Council, the news of humanity's acceptance spread like wildfire. The entire galaxy seemed to be in a state of flux. Species that had long considered themselves the dominant forces in the galaxy now found themselves questioning their own positions. What did humanity's sudden arrival mean for their future? What would this new species bring to the table? On one world, the Zarian Empire, the rulers convened in their royal palace, a majestic structure built into the side of a volcanic mountain. The emperor, a towering figure draped in gold and black robes, stared at the holographic projections of the HFY's arrival. His sharp, angular face remained unreadable as he watched the unfolding events. "We will have to be cautious," the emperor muttered, his voice low. "The humans have something we do not. They have proven themselves capable of greatness, but what else do they want?" His advisors exchanged nervous glances. The Zarian Empire had long been a powerful force in the galaxy, but humanity's arrival signaled a shift in the balance of power. The emperor's mind raced as he considered the possibilities. Could humanity be a new ally, or would they prove to be a formidable rival? His hand hovered over a communication device, debating whether to reach out to the Council or prepare for a more direct approach. Back on the UES horizon, Captain Ilara stood before a holographic map of the galaxy, her crew gathered around her. She traced a finger over the star systems they had visited, systems that were now part of the greater galactic conversation. It was a reminder of the stakes ahead. From here on out, every decision we make will impact not just humanity, but the entire galaxy, Ilara said, her voice carrying the weight of responsibility. "We have to be careful, strategic. We cannot afford to make enemies. We have to prove that we are a force for good." Jarek stepped forward, his expression solemn. "And what of the unknown threats you mentioned before? The ones lurking beyond the galaxy?" Ilara's expression darkened. "Those threats are real, and they are growing. We may have allies, but we also have enemies who are watching us. We must be ready for whatever comes next." As the crew nodded in agreement, Ilara turned back to the holographic map, her eyes narrowing. There was no turning back now. Humanity had made its mark on the galaxy, and its future would be determined by the choices they made in the coming days. The unknown was vast, but so was their potential. And as the UES horizon sailed toward new horizons, Captain Ilara knew that this was only the beginning. The journey ahead would be filled with challenges, but humanity would face them with the same resilience and determination that had brought them to this moment. The galaxy would never be the same again. The shadows of the unknown. Days had passed since the Galactic Council had officially recognized humanity's arrival, but the weight of their decision still hung in the air. The first tentative steps toward cooperation had been made, but no one could deny that the future remained uncertain. Humanity's promise to contribute to the galaxy's safety had been heard, but trust was something that needed to be earned. And in a galaxy filled with so many races, so many agendas, that task would not be easy. On the UES horizon, Captain Ilara was at the helm of her ship, overseeing the latest preparations. The crew had been busy training and learning how to navigate the delicate dynamics of interstellar diplomacy. Despite the optimism of the initial reception, Ilara knew they couldn't afford to get complacent. There were still too many unknowns, and not just from the council members. The more they traveled the galaxy, the more they could feel it. A sense that something was watching them from the dark, something ancient and far more dangerous than they had ever anticipated. As Ilara stood in the ship's command center, looking over the latest intelligence reports from the outer reaches of known space, her first officer, Commander Jarek, approached with a new report in hand. "Captain," Jarek began, his tone more serious than usual, "we've received troubling news. There's been an anomaly detected on the edge of the Valtar Nebula, a strange energy signature we haven't been able to classify. The readings are unlike anything we've encountered before." Ilara's expression hardened. "What kind of anomaly? A natural phenomenon?" Jarek shook his head. "No, it's artificial. Someone, or something, is out there, and it's emitting a level of energy that surpasses anything we've ever seen." The hairs on the back of Ilara's neck stood up. She had heard rumors, whispers about an ancient force that had long been dormant beyond the edge of known space. Many dismissed these tales as superstition, but Ilara had learned not to ignore her instincts, especially in a galaxy where the unknown often held far more power than the known. "We need to investigate," she ordered, her voice unwavering. "If this is what I think it is, we can't afford to ignore it. Prepare the ship for immediate departure. We'll need a full reconnaissance team." Elsewhere in the galaxy, the news of humanity's arrival had sparked both hope and fear in equal measure. The Luma, a peaceful race of energy beings, had long watched from the fringes of galactic affairs, their nature focused more on study and understanding than conflict. However, they knew of the dangers lurking in the deepest corners of space, forces that even their most advanced technologies had yet to understand. Lixara, the Luminaris delegate who had supported humanity's peaceful intentions, stood in the central hall of her people's council, pondering the unfolding situation. The council had debated whether to join humanity in their investigation of the anomaly, but there was hesitation. The Luma had always kept to themselves, wary of entangling themselves in the power struggles of the galaxy. But now, with the strange energy signature detected and the possibility of something ancient and dangerous awakening, Lixara knew that inaction was no longer an option. "We cannot stand by," Lixara said to her fellow Luminaris, her voice filled with a rare urgency. "If there is a force rising, it may be beyond our comprehension. We must offer our assistance to humanity, if they will accept it." One of the council members, a stern and cautious Luma named Vayer, spoke up. "You suggest we risk exposing ourselves to a threat we cannot control, Lixara. We do not know what we are dealing with. What if it is not something we can negotiate with, something we cannot outsmart?" Lixara's face softened, but her resolve remained. "We have the knowledge, Vayer, and perhaps for the first time, we have allies. Humanity may be our key. Their strength, their adaptability, it may be just what we need to survive whatever lies ahead. But we must act before it is too late." The council fell into a hushed silence as Lixara's words sank in. At last, after what seemed like an eternity, they nodded in agreement. They would send a contingent to meet with humanity's delegation on the UES Horizon. Back aboard the UES Horizon, Captain Ilara and her crew gathered in the ship's briefing room. The Luminaris delegation had agreed to join their mission to investigate the anomaly, bringing with them a team of their most advanced scientists and researchers. It was a step forward in building the trust that humanity so desperately needed, but it also brought with it new challenges. The Luminaris were a race of energy beings, their form intangible and delicate. To interact with them required intricate technology designed to interface with their unique physiology. Ilara turned to her crew, her eyes scanning the room. "This mission is critical," she began, her voice steady but filled with determination. "We don't know what we're walking into, but we do know that we're not alone in this, at least, not anymore. The Luminaris are with us, and together, we'll uncover what this anomaly is and what it means for the galaxy." Jarek nodded, his usual stoic demeanor replaced with a quiet but palpable sense of urgency. We need to be ready for anything. The reports from the outer regions suggest the anomaly is growing stronger, and the energy readings are becoming more erratic. Whatever is causing it, it's evolving. We don't have the luxury of time, Ilara agreed, her eyes narrowing as she stared at the holographic map of the galaxy. We leave at once. The future of the galaxy might depend on what we find in the Veltar Nebula. As the UES Horizon and its new allies set course for the nebula, the unknown stretched out before them like a dark ocean. The threat that loomed over them remained unseen, but its presence was undeniable. For every civilization in the galaxy, the stakes were rising, and the peace they had fought so long to maintain now hung in the balance. As the ship made its way through hyperspace, Ilara stood alone in the observation deck, her eyes reflecting the swirling stars outside. She couldn't shake the feeling that this was the beginning of something far greater than any of them realized, a force that would either unite them all or tear the galaxy apart. And deep in the heart of the Veltar Nebula, the shadows of the unknown waited, watching, growing stronger by the moment. Into the heart of darkness, the Veltar Nebula loomed ahead, an immense cloud of dust and gas stretching across the star-filled expanse, its swirling colors, purples, blues, and eerie greens, gave the region a surreal, almost mystical feel. Yet there was nothing peaceful about it. As the UES Horizon and its luminous allies entered the outskirts of the nebula, a sense of foreboding filled the air. The anomaly was close now, and the energy readings had only grown stronger, more erratic. Inside the command center, Captain Ilara stood at the helm, her eyes scanning the holographic displays in front of her. The ship's sensors had detected unusual fluctuations in the nebula's energy fields, distorting space itself. It was unlike anything they had encountered before, a force so powerful it seemed to defy the natural laws of physics. Every instinct Ilara had told her that this was not a natural occurrence. Whatever this energy was, it was sentient, and it had a purpose. "Captain," Jarek said, his voice tinged with concern, "the energy readings are off the charts. If we get any closer, we might lose our ability to navigate. We'll be pulled in, trapped in the gravity well of whatever's at the center." "I know," Ilara replied, her jaw tightening. "But we don't have a choice. We need to find out what's causing this, and we need to do it now. All ships, prepare for deceleration. We're going in." The Luminaris delegation, their ethereal forms shimmering softly, stood quietly at the back of the command center, observing. Lixura, their leader, stepped forward, her translucent figure glowing faintly in the low light of the room. "Captain, we sense it too. The energy feels ancient, like something that has been waiting in the dark for eons. It's not just a threat to us, but to everything we know." Ilara turned to face her, nodding grimly. "I've felt it as well. But whatever it is, we can't allow it to remain unchecked. Not after everything we've already been through." Lixura's glowing eyes flickered with a knowing sadness. The galaxy has always been a place of wonder and danger. But this is something different. We may be walking into something beyond our understanding. As the UES Horizon plunged deeper into the nebula, the space around them seemed to grow colder, darker. The stars outside, once so bright, were swallowed by the mist. The ship's sensors began to flicker erratically, struggling to stay functional in the face of the massive distortion. In the distance, a faint but distinct shape began to emerge from the swirling mass. An immense structure, a dark, hulking silhouette that seemed to pulse with its own malevolent energy. "There," Jarek whispered, his voice barely audible. "Is that a ship?" "It's no ship," Ilara replied, her voice sharp. "It's something much older." As the UES Horizon approached the dark structure, the tension in the air became palpable. The Luminaris had detected the disturbance long before humanity had arrived, but even their vast knowledge could not prepare them for what lay ahead. The structure was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Its jagged edges seemed to writhe and shift with a life of their own, as though the very material of the ship was being reshaped by the unknown energy that emanated from it. The closer they got, the stronger the pull became. The ship's instruments began to malfunction, the readouts showing increasing distortions in space-time as they entered the heart of the anomaly. The UEA's horizon began to shake, and alarms blared throughout the vessel as the crew struggled to maintain control. "Captain," Jarek shouted over the noise, "we can't maintain our course. The gravitational pull is too strong. We're being sucked in." Ilara's mind raced. They were running out of time. She couldn't afford to let the ship be drawn into the heart of this structure without understanding what it was, and worse, without understanding who or what was behind it. "All hands, brace for impact," Ilara commanded. "Prepare to disengage from the anomaly. We need to break free before we're trapped." But as the crew scrambled to respond, something unexpected happened. The strange energy around them pulsed and fluctuated in a rhythmic pattern, like a heartbeat, deep and ancient. Then, without warning, a voice, low and resonant, as if it came from the very fabric of the universe itself, spoke through the ship's communication system. "Who dares to approach the sleeper?" The voice was chilling, carrying with it the weight of eons of silence. The temperature in the room seemed to drop as the crew exchanged nervous glances. Was this the source of the anomaly? Was this the being they had come to find? The Luminaris delegation reacted first, their forms flickering in distress. Lixara raised her hand in a gesture of peace. "We mean no harm. We seek only to understand." She spoke in the ancient language of the galaxy, hoping her words would reach the entity. For a long, agonizing moment, there was nothing but silence. Then the voice responded, its tone darker than before. "Understand. You are trespassers in my domain. You are not worthy of knowledge. Leave, or face extinction." Ilara's heart raced. The threat was clear, but there was something else, an unmistakable sense of unease in the voice, as if the entity had not expected anyone to find it, let alone challenge it. She knew this moment would define their fate. "How do we stop this?" Ilara demanded, her voice firm but laced with urgency. "We don't want to fight. We just want to understand. We don't have to be your enemies." The structure's dark shape seemed to pulse once more, sending a shockwave through space, rattling the UES horizon. The entity spoke again, but this time there was a hint of something else, a curiosity, perhaps, or a reluctant recognition. "You are different. The humans. You seek knowledge, yet you do not fear it. Very well. I will test your resolve." The lights in the command center flickered as the massive structure before them began to stir. It was as though the ancient entity had awakened, and now its full attention was focused on humanity and its allies. Ilara looked around at her crew, the Luminaris, and the dark, pulsing entity ahead of them. The galaxy's fate, their future, all depended on how they responded to the trial ahead. There was no turning back now. "We're in this together," Ilara said, her voice resolute. "Stay focused. Whatever happens next, we face it as one."